Hello again, it's Lee. I am going to give another quick talk. This one is going to be concerning how to empower yourself, how to spiritually self-empower yourself. Most of it really has to do with the recognition that you are the one that has the final authority on your thoughts, on your actions, on the way you deal with how other people interact, the outcomes of your feelings and your thoughts when you interact with somebody else, or a certain thing comes your way, how you associate, it could be a word or a comment made to you, it could be an event that happened, like, maybe a car accident, or maybe you end up getting a bill that you weren't expecting. Our common tendency is to, of course, in this case, react with, shock and, in a state of, a bit of bewilderment, as it were. But in any case, all the good things and all the bad things that happen to us on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, so on, we really do have all the ultimate choice about it. There is no one that decides how you react for what happened to you. There's no one that can decide how I am going to react. It is my choice. Now, we can be influenced from each other, of course. You could see, you call that like mob mentality, for one example, that someone gets excited or, or angry or very happy and elated, and then you get influenced by them. But what I'm talking about is you are always able to empower yourself the most. There is no intervening true authority except yourself to accept or deny something. Even the God, the great original one, gave us free will. That was the greatest gift of all, is that we have free will. Now, a lot of us face this this life of ours, and I've been guilty many times myself, and I especially think of how I used to be, and be a very strong I won't necessarily say blaming the world or blaming such a person, but sometimes that. In many cases I would find myself feeling not sure how I felt, not sure how I wanted to react to something, and then of course there's, such a thing as in the heat of the moment, where you get really, excited or angered or sad, and then after some time, and time does heal wounds, but even after sometimes a short time you say, well, that's interesting. So what I'm saying by that is even your feelings and your habits can betray you, but it is you who are you are the judge and the jury of your own self in every shape and every form and every way, for how you want to view this life, how you're going to accept the things that happen to you, how you want to deal with other people, and all that stuff. We have to remind ourselves the great grace that we already have, that we already live with, which is our freedom of choice and our ability to think, the ability to think freely, especially in, with the YouTube phenomenon and phenomena as it extends into other areas. The whole internet thing is really putting us in the paradigm that we can start to really think for ourselves, and by viewing each other, see that we very much are similar, which is also very nice, by a natural tendency, I mean, not by, I'm sorry, kick the table and wobble the camera. What I mean by that is, we are tended to put into a certain mode that society wants, the media wants, because it wants to use us. There are people here with dark intentions because they're dark inside and they're empty inside. They haven't accepted themselves, they haven't accepted love. That their first reaction to being humbled and put into the human body is, oh, well, I got humbled and made weak, I must do it to somebody else. And so, to make money off of you and your energy, to make a slave out of you, to contort and deceive you for the gain of them, the gain of someone else. And we end up starting to get put in these habitual modes of thinking and feeling when something occurs. Even a minute little tiny detail or it could be a great event. What I'm talking about is getting back to the source, getting back to the immovable you, the immovable I, the eternal self, which is of God, which is qualitatively the same as God, a drop that came out of the ocean of God. You have all the power for that, and I have all the power for that. You know, in my own life, I've had a lot of troubles with things that have happened. You know, there was divorce, there was my own father, who is a pretty negative person, and you know, there's other issues and things, and there's my going through a great spiritual awakening that left me in a lot of poverty and a lot of emptiness and a lot of feeling very different from other people for a long time. And because we're taught that it's weird or bizarre or it's new or strange, different in general, that we end up beating ourselves up. It's not even, it's, you know, that's the whole point of the talk. Other people can put a word or a thought towards you that you think you're supposed to feel. You think you're supposed to take on yourself. Someone says, you're not good enough. You'll never become that, you can never do that. And then, especially when you're young, that's where the trap gets set. Then you convince yourself, I'm not good enough, I couldn't do it. And we get into this manipulated guilt feeling, this oppression. But the point is, we ourselves accepted it, that oppression. So, the more we grow up, the more we find ourselves, our consciousness evolving into this new world, this new age that's coming on, that's already here. We start to see we can shake off those things. I used to be a very depressed person. I used to be very much an insomniac. I had such a hard time sleeping for almost 10 years. I hated life so much. I was maybe even partially suicidal. I wasn't really taking it seriously, but it was the thought of, oh, I want to get out of here. I want to escape from this planet of struggle and, you know, unfriendliness. I wasn't looking at the good things. I was choosing to accept the radio station of the negative forces. They say it sucks, it's no good, it's downtrodden. I convince myself with my choice, yes, it's true. And then I go on living my life like that. What I'm saying is to wake up and empower yourself and shake off that mantle and say, I have the choice. Even if someone to hold a gun to the head, even if some horrible thing to happen, I can still remain in me. I can still recognize my own soul self that is untouchable. As you are untouchable. You yourself know this. The you that is you, that dreams and wants and animating the body and all that. The you that is you is invincible. And you must get in touch with yourself at that level to always be the master of yourself. And when you start to become the master of yourself, you start to understand everyone and everything more and more and more and more and more. Our first thing is to understand each other. Then I think once we're worthy once we become good at understanding each other with love and with wisdom and insight, then with intuitive knowing, then to become worthy to go out into the great beyond. Most of which is still a mystery. Most of it's still a mystery. But if we can't master ourselves, we'll never be able to get along with others. We'll never be able to become worthy of the great things that are out there, all around, and mysterious dimensions all around. So, I want to mention that. I do agree with many great wise teachers who talk about suffering and hardship as not a punishment. God is angry with you. God has given it to you. Accept it and live in your guilt. This is the mode, the word, the mindset of someone else who is very much not in control of self and is looking to control others. And maybe finally, after long last, they'll give up and start to control self first. But I'm saying suffering and hardships are a great way. They are teachers. The things that happen to teach us. They allow us the opportunity to change. They grant us the opportunity to change. a lot of mystics throughout the world, and I'll sum it up in one mystic, one Catholic mystic, Saint Juan de la Cruz, who said, the dark night of the soul. Many hard things can happen to us. You see other people, friends, family, on movies, stories, things we hear about each other, that hard things happen, and even to ourselves, and we don't change. A hardship happens, we stay the same. We're stubborn, we're angry, we refuse to admit that we were wrong. Our ego mental part of ourselves, which is a trickster more than a friend a lot of the time, likes to get in charge and likes to deny and be defensive and arrogant because it's defensive and weak and full of fear. So that part of ourself wants to get into control of the situation, and then we refuse to accept the opportunity of change. I'm telling you the truth. I mean, on my other video I talked about that, my own near-death experience. I have died and come back to life, basically. I have been through my own very harsh suffering. It's not about, I mean, I'm not saying everyone needs to suffer greatly in order to become and start to become enlightened, but I'm saying these are the things that are great opportunities. While living in these bodies, we often forget we are mortal. Imagine how silly and proud we are. We forget our mortality, and we go day to day acting invincible, and then something happens, a natural disaster, a car accident, whatever the case may be, and very humbling, brings us back to ourselves. It's like I recognize in my own case, my own mortality for the first time when I had my near-death experience, coming out of my body and then coming back in, as the angel placed me back in at God's will, at my own request. So, suffering as a way to enhance yourself. Did you break up with someone? You lost your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse? Did a family member pass away?